Aloha, I'm State Representative Cindy Evans, and thank you for joining me today on my show, Now What? And I'm really honored to have Representative Mark Takai with me today. Hi, Mark.
Aloha. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. You know, to let you know that Mark and I have been colleagues now since I got elected in November '02, and when were you
10
elected?
Years. 94.
In '94?
Yeah, this makes 10 elections.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm on my sixth election.
Yeah.
And
You'll get there.
Yeah, thank you. You know, it's just been a pleasure working with you and understanding what your priorities are. And, you know, and both of us, I think, found that common ground when it comes to the veterans.
Absolutely.
You know, and I really felt that this would be time well spent talking with our community about what you're doing now as the chair of Veterans, Military, International Affairs, and kind of, you know, what you're doing today, and you know, maybe we can reminisce a little bit about what we've accomplished over the last few years. But you know, the veterans issues do not go away. We learn more and more all the time. We now, you know, have more and more veterans coming home and new issues, things we've learned, and so it's as important now as it has ever been, I think, that we work on veterans issues. But of course, we have the active military and the National Guard also. So, you know, I thought we'd spend this time, you know, kind of talking about where we're at in the state of Hawaii and what we're doing.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, when you take a look at the military, you know, with the wars winding down, the demand for services to our veterans will just increase. You know, with 10 years of war plus the other wars, you know, we have an obligation to make sure that our warriors, our war heroes, and people that fought on behalf of our country are provided for. And it's tough. I mean, just yesterday, in fact, I had a chance to talk with a friend of mine, and she's going through some serious challenges with PTSD. And I told her, you know, let's get some help. Let's go to the VA. But there's a lot of veterans that are afraid to go. You know, they have this concern about the stigma. So it's still there, you know, and they're worried about their jobs. They're worried about their friends. And, you know, I'm one that says, you know what, we've developed a system that's better than ever. Let's utilize it. You know, let's get our veterans there. Let's get them the help and do the things that we need to do to make them well in some cases.
Well, for the audience, can you tell about your own personal involvement with the military? Because I know you've been active in the National Guard.
Yeah, this makes, I think, 14 years since getting commissioned in the National Guard. I got commissioned in July of '99 as a preventive medical officer in the Hawaii Army National Guard. But even prior to that, many people don't know, but after graduating from Pearl City High School, I went to the Naval Academy. I got appointments to a number of the academies, and I chose Navy. Came home within months, and I think over the years just kind of had a little regret about stepping away from the military and just wanted to do my part. So this opportunity opened up in '99 for me to be the very first preventive medical officer for the Guard. And it was as a result of me getting my master's in public health from UH Manoa. And I've enjoyed working with my fellow Guardsmen ever since. And I think it provided me with an opportunity to not only advocate for the military, but be part of it. In 2009, I had an opportunity to deploy with the 29th Brigade. That's the National Guard's largest unit. And although there were some people that went to Iraq and did missions and convoy missions up and down Iraq and Kuwait, I stayed in lower Kuwait and helped run a base called Camp Patriot in Kuwait Naval Base, so southern Kuwait. And that was a great experience. It's almost like running a small community. I mean, you're doing everything, whether it's water, sewer, food, mail, you know, MWR, everything for that small little community, and that was a lot of fun. But coming home, I think I had a better understanding about what some of the challenges are that our veterans are facing. And although, you know, I was fortunate not to see live combat, and I didn't see too much horrible things, there was still some issues that we had to deal with that I think in other cases caused some great pains for people coming home. So that's my background, and that's where I come from as it relates to the military.
Well, it does give a nice perspective, though, because we now have women as well as men in our military, and you've been seeing that transition. Given the time that you've spent in the military, you've seen that transition, and clearly there's new policies and new challenges dealing with the women, because if you're going to deal with their health care issues, they're different than men. You're going to deal with single family parents, child custody issues, and a woman versus a man. Just that different viewpoint. So, what's it like now in the military? Is there a lot of women officers? Are we really seeing this huge change happening?
Actually, yes. But from my perspective as a medical service corps officer and working with the medics and patient admin and all these people associated with the medicine, we had women along with us for quite a while. So I was a commander of what we call Charlie Med, which is a medical company for the brigade in 2006, 7, somewhere around there. And I'd say half the unit was female. Now, we're not a combat unit. We're not like the 100 Battalion or the CAV units or the artillery units, where traditionally they've been all or mostly guys. But in medicine, the women were pretty well represented, and it was never an issue. So, I can understand why we're moving in that direction, and I think there's a lot to be said about having the women join the guys and fight along with us. So it's fine.
So, and how is that translated to post-traumatic stress syndrome and coming home? Are you seeing these programs being tailored for, dealing with women versus men?
I'm pretty sure we have programs like that, and we have made some changes to the PTSD programs or mental health programs, but I haven't seen it. I don't even know if we have a differentiation between males and females in regards to PTSD. I think people react differently, and I don't think it has anything to do with gender. It's interesting how it affects people. We had one guy in our unit who was the first student or first patient in the PTSD program at RRR come from the National Guard, and I worked personally very hard to get him in there. He was our best medic. He was an outstanding soldier prior to the first deployment, and it changed him. And Cindy, it's pretty significant because when I took over the medical company after the first deployment, I didn't go on the first deployment. I was in the rear, and I served as the deputy state surgeon here at Diamond Head. But after the first deployment, not too many people talk about this, but I would say about 50% of our families went through divorce. And that's National Guard. Now you would say, wow, that's pretty significant, and it is. But I say that, when our first deployment came, National Guard soldiers and airmen and families, I don't think really understood what deployment was. It's very different from the active duty. You get married into an active duty family. You're going to rotate every 2 years. You're going to get deployed. It wasn't a matter of whether, it was when. But for National Guard, when I signed up in '99, I never thought I was going to get deployed. So, the challenges of deployment, especially the first one being 18 months and in some cases 24 months. Can you imagine any of our families here, local families that had no intention of being away from, the islands for much longer than a week on vacation, spending 2 years away? It's pretty significant. So we saw a lot after the first deployment, and as such, I think the National Guard across the nation and all the branches of the military now pay particular attention to families. I mean, we're spending a lot of time, energy, and money on making sure that families are, that the concerns of families are being addressed.
Which is one of the things I've noticed too, which I've really appreciated, that when you get someone into the military, it's more than just the military
Mm-hmm.
person. It's their family. It's their extended family,
Mm-hmm.
their close family, and how do we work with the whole unit instead of just with the person?
Mm-hmm.
Because when they sign up, when they commit themselves, they have an extension. They have that
Mhm.
private life. They have
Right.
more than just.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the whole, which I've really liked, which actually is a great segment for one of the things we wanted to talk about today is why are we pursuing a veterans court, which is kind of the new, kind of a new initiative coming our way.
Right. So after the first deployment in '09, we joined together in this task force called Healing the Trauma of War, and it was led by the Mental Health Association of Hawaii, and it brought together lawmakers both at the federal and state level. It brought together the VA system, advocacy organizations, and it brought together the judiciary. And we had an opportunity to sit down and kind of just take a look at all of the effects of war as it related to our veterans. But one thing came up to the top, and it was the Veterans Court, or some people call it the Veterans Treatment Court. And yeah, that picture right there is a recent picture. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard and I had an opportunity to go and witness firsthand a live veteran treatment court in Hawaii. And it's very special for Hawaii because although it was started in Buffalo, New York, I think it went like the early 90s. I say that Hawaii as a state is the first state in the nation to have a veterans treatment court at the state level. Now we're doing it here on Oahu, and it's going to be deployed to Maui and Kauai and the Big Island. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to address symptoms of war for some of the veterans that get trapped into the judiciary system and see if we can leverage the VA system. So typically without a veterans court, you have a person getting tried, and the judge makes a ruling and then says to the in this case the veteran, see you later, take care of yourself. Well, now with the Veterans Treatment Court, there were, at that time when we went to see them, there were 3 people from the VA, federal VA, there working alongside the judge and the offender. So the judge will ask the veteran, okay, so did you work closely with your VA people? Are you going to your appointments? And from my perspective, it's a leveraging of resources that the state judiciary never had. So, we're taking the resources that are provided to veterans because they are veterans at the VA federal level and marrying it up with the state judiciary, and it's working out pretty well.
But isn't it more importantly that the judge with the VA counselors are talking as a support unit?
Yes, absolutely.
So that the offender, so when they're having this conversation about, why did you attack that person and beat them up and cause them, got in a fight or whatever, and really, so what was the trigger? What was it all about? Because, sometimes maybe it's an assault case,
Right.
and they can have this whole conversation about, and then have, from what I understand with these specialty courts, because we have other specialty courts in Hawaii,
Right.
is that basically then you have basically like a contract. So you and the judge have kind of a contract where they're saying, we know what you did is wrong, and you're going to have to, have the punishment, be jail time or whatever.
Right.
But the point is a contract in how are you going to deal with whatever is the underlying cause or whatever we're going to do to prevent this in the future. Isn't that a big part of it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But tied to that is, like you mentioned, the access to the veterans, the VA. And that is an important part of treatment because, we in the state could mandate through the judiciary, that this offender go and seek treatment. But whether he goes is up to him. Now, because of this Veterans Treatment Court, the judge is visiting with these guys every week. And alongside the 3 VA people, we have peer mentors too, former veterans, who in some cases went through some of the same problems that these offenders are going through right now. So there's some understanding, and it's worked out very well. So we have legislation going through this year that helps move the program forward. The program right now is being supported by grant funds, and I met with CJ Moon and now CJ Reckenwald, and we're getting support from the highest levels of the judiciary, and I think that's very important. So we're very proud. So just a few weeks ago when we went to visit, we presented Judge Kubo and all the judiciary with certificates of appreciation from the legislature. I was able to present my coin to the 3 offenders and thank them for participating, encouraging them to continue their good work. And I'm very hopeful that this program is going to not only save lives but save families, jobs, and money. So this is a good one.
It's a really, really good one. And with the time we have left, I really do want to talk about your committee, Veterans, Military Affairs, International Affairs, which actually the international part works perfectly with veterans and military, given
Absolutely.
Definitely the connections that we have globally, and especially military and veterans, the state to state. If we're going to have peace and unity in the world, we need to know each other and understand each other, and I'm sure that you're probably involved in that.
Well, I've had the opportunity not only to deploy to the Middle East, but every year for the last 3 years, I've had the chance to go to Indonesia. And you're absolutely right. I think if militaries across nations can work together, you're going to solve a lot of problems that potentially could come our way. So, a lot of people think that the military is very offensive and fighting wars, but you'd be surprised. We spend a lot of time, energy, and money focused on building relationships and keeping people calm and satisfied. I mean, the pivot to the Pacific is for real. So when you take a look at everybody in the Pacific, with us being in the center, you have all of these focal points, some bad, some good, that all relate to international affairs. And people just recently, we've been talking a lot about North Korea, and just today I think there was another story in the paper. That is going to be a trouble spot that we've got to focus in on for the next few years, and building relationships, whether it be from Dennis Rodman going or just trying to develop other opportunities, may in fact be the solution to a challenge like that. I mean, we have many examples of that, and I go back to Indonesia, and Indonesia is the 3rd largest army in the world, very strong Muslim country, and we're allies, we're friends, and we do a lot together, and I think that has a lot to do with the stability of the South Pacific, and what they've been able to do recently.
And if you have disagreement, you know each other, you're familiar with each other, you can call each other on the phone and say, before this escalates,
right,
let's have this conversation.
Absolutely.
And you can do that. So I think the money, I agree too that I think the money spent on that is a whole lot better than the amount of money we spend if we go into a war. Absolutely. Well, having said that, you did something that you brought to the legislature a few years ago, and we do this annually. We have for several years now, and hopefully we won't have to continue doing this for much longer, but that is your Hawaii Medal of Honor that you were instrumental in getting going. And I think that the people of Hawaii need to know what their legislature does.
Right.
I mean, sometimes we do some significant stuff during the legislative session that a lot of people don't know that we've done it, and yet I think it's real reflective, of the greater good for the whole state. And yet, so this, hopefully when people watching this show will understand that this is an important thing that we do, this Medal of Honor. So
in 2005, while the brigade was deployed, a number of us, we wanted to do something profound, and had an opportunity to talk with U.S. Senator Inouye, and he gave his blessings on the name of this award, and it's truly an award that you don't want to get, because the only people that get it are the families of people that were killed in action. So, it's a beautiful medal, but it's one that, like I said, you don't want to get. However, in the state of Hawaii, and we led the way, and now there's a number of states that do it. However, in the state of Hawaii, when we lose someone, or a family loses someone, whether they were born in Hawaii, raised in Hawaii, went to school in Hawaii, or deployed with a unit from Hawaii, they're part of our ohana. And as such, we want to recognize them and thank them for their sacrifices. So we do a joint session of the legislature, and as you know, that's a very rare opportunity where the House and Senate comes together. In fact, I think there's nothing like it, right? You have the House and Senate together, you have the governor, you have our two-star general, in this case, Major General Wong, presiding as well, and then you have the top brass from the military, and then the congressional delegation, and everybody else. So picture this, in the gallery you have all the friends and family of the lost service members, many of them deployed with these people. And you have all of us, and you have our families and friends and some of our staff. The entire chamber packed with people to witness this somber ceremony. And we've been doing it for 8 years, and over the past 8 years, Hawaii has lost 327 people. And each and every one of them received the Hawaii Medal of Honor, which is, in our order of precedence, the highest medal that we give in the state of Hawaii. But, like I said, it's not one that you want. So since we've done it, Alaska has done it, New Hampshire has done it, and to some extent, I think Texas is doing it. We have bits and pieces of our project being done by other states.
And the picture here is there's the Medal of Honor, and who
Yes, so
designed that? Who designed that?
That was a
local.
Yes, absolutely. Aaron Pollock, Sergeant First Class Aaron Pollock from the National Guard designed it our very first year, and it's withstood the test of time. The symbolism of the medal is pretty impressive. Everything means something, but in that particular picture, the person holding the medal, her name is Katie Del Castillo. She and her husband were both active duty. She lost her husband, I believe it was last year, and she found out when she was deployed. It's a very tough situation. But interestingly enough, the woman next to her, and she started running, and then, he came home to her, but she didn't have her husband come back. But they became very good friends because of the deployment, and both women started running as a result of her husband being killed in action. And she's a typical recipient of our Hawaii Medal of Honor, and it's very special. It was very special for her, and she keeps on talking about it. But I wouldn't wish this on anyone.
No, I know. I've been through many of these, and it's
the strongest legislators, the ones that can withstand anything, can't withstand sometimes the emotions of this particular ceremony. I mean, you see some of our colleagues, and I get choked up too. I mean, it's just tough.
It's tough, and the parents and the wife with children and the grandparents.
Absolutely.
And most of the men and women are young people.
Right.
Right. That's the other thing is, and that's sad because there's so many was so many years ahead for them. But when you talk to the family members, because I was the chair of public safety and military affairs and led the kind of for 2 years was involved in this Medal of Honor, and having met with the family members and stuff. But they were so proud, and they knew in their hearts that they did what they want. They wanted to serve their country, and they knew that that's really what they wanted. Right. And they were so proud and happy that their loved one was doing what they wanted to do.
Absolutely.
So that really was touching. They knew that's what they wanted was to be out there fighting for our country. So I just am glad that there's people that are willing, and you too. I'm glad that you're willing to do that. I'm glad you're willing to sign up. I'm glad you're willing to say,
You can sign up too.
Yeah. I signed up for this, I guess, running for office, doing my part to serve my community. But Yeah, and my mother was a wave in World War II, stationed in Washington, D.C., and my father was in the Air Force in World War II, stationed in
Wow.
Papua New Guinea with the Air Force. And so, one of the things my mom and dad, they worked really hard doing community service and the Elks Club and the Moose and VFW, but they spent a lot of time supporting the community and veterans, and I learned a lot from them. And we can't ever, I don't think we should ever forget what our veterans and active military do for us. I mean, never ever forget
Well,
what they do.
I think our nation is the greatest when it comes to recognizing and our heroes and never forgetting them. So if you even look around the Capital District, we have some distinct memorials and monuments and memories of past wars. And one of the things that we're trying to do this year is we're beginning the discussions for a Middle East memorial. We don't know where it's going to be, but we definitely know that it's going to include not only these recent wars, but the wars in the 90s, Desert Storm and Desert Shield and stuff like that. It's another time, and it is time for us as a state to recognize them. So we're beginning those discussions as well.
Thank you for doing that. The other thing you're doing there was an honor and remember flag, a Gold Star family license plate. These are also things recognizing.
We became the 49th state after Guam to have Gold Star license plates. And Gold Star families are very special families. A lot of people don't understand who they are, but that family is the Brostrom family. You only can get a Gold Star family license plate if you lose a loved one. So they were number one.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. That's so great. Now I'm seeing we're running out of time.
I know.
Oh, there's so much. There's so much you're doing, Mart. I appreciate it as a state legislator, knowing that what your chairmanship and what you're involved in and really taking the lead. And this year I got a new chairmanship of Water Land, so I know you have to. You really do. You focus. That's your focus area for us, and I really appreciate what you do for us.
It's the least we can do.
Yeah.
And I'm honored to serve as the chair.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us, and take care. Aloha.